Namaste friends from New Dharma Hyderabad. My name is Vishwanath. We have Dr. Srinivas, city's renowned cardiologist. We are here to do the first video on Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, Yoga for Action. So in our effort to demystify Gita and to make our lives efficient, that's our motto. So before we begin, we'd like to express our salutations to our Gurudev, Sat Sri. May His grace illumine our minds. So our motto is to bring the essence of Gita from library to our practical life, which is bedrooms, offices, kitchen, wherever we are. So that's our endeavor. So to begin with, Dr. Srinivas, can you please give us the quick recap of chapter 2 on yoga of discrimination? What are the key concepts we cover?
So let me not really take much time. Just I'll mention we did 2 videos in chapter 2. First being the knowledge of the spirit, and second being the stable intellect and stabilized wisdom. So we are, as you said, we are just giving the essence of these chapters, which should be more interesting to our target audience. So we did the basically on the consciousness and what is called as sthita prajna, stabilized wisdom. So that will naturally lead to the next chapter, which is yoga of action. So this is where we are.
So in our practical life, we make a lot of decisions, be it work, family, even our own individual well-being, right? So how can we refine our decision-making strategy?
What you said is true. Basically, life, they say, is decision making, isn't it? So the efficiency of decision making is the efficiency with which you lead your life. So that's Gita for efficient living. So coming to the point, most of our decisions, if we can root our decision making on the faculty of intellect, basically not on hearsay, what others tell us or our own assumptions of things, but based on facts, our own examination of facts. Have you examined the facts and taken decision for yourself, or is it based on conclusions drawn by others after interpreting the data? So these points will help us to come to a nearly perfect decision. Basically use your intellect, not on in a fit of anger, fit of emotion, or on a fleeting thought, but on intellectually examining the facts.
Okay. So you're hinting us that we are not looking at the facts on the face before we making decisions, right? What is preventing us to take them into our consideration?
So you are saying that what is pushing us not to use our intellect to take our decisions? Why are we distracted always? So that's the issue. If we look into the process of decision making, there are 2 models. One is given by the Sigmund Freud, this is the Freudian model. Other is the Gita model of looking at it. So a few words about the Freudian model. Sigmund Freud said basically the human personality is, as you all know, conscious and subconscious, conscious and unconscious parts. So the conscious part is called the ego, which in Latin means basically the I, which we are all our day-to-day reality. The unconscious part has 2 parts again. Unconscious mind has 2 parts. One is called id and other is called the superego. The id first is what we are born with, our animal drives, our basic emotional needs, our aggression, the libido. So these are the animal drives which are present in the basic blueprint of birth, which we call id. This basically runs on a single principle, that is pleasure principle. It seeks to get pleasure, and what it doesn't get pleasure or pain, it basically repulses from pain and seeks pleasure. This is the basic principle on which the id runs. The other half is the superego. Superego is something like a father figure of the mind, which is generally basically the programmed part of the human mind, which is the cultural programming, the parental programming of the child after the child is born. the parents actually transfer not their personalities but their own programming, their own superego to the child's superego. Basically, they transfer their programming to the child and program that child into idealistic behavior, basically. So that is in the mind, one half of the mind. Other half of the subconscious mind is the id, and both are in conflict always. That leads to a mental conflict and the typical indecisiveness which we all face. The indecisiveness is because two voices fighting with each other. One is the lower id and higher supermind, both vying to take control of the ego which is on top. So this is the Freudian model. So the model is given by the Gita. So the Gita model states that, like, there are three primary colors: red, blue and yellow, which gives to all the myriad of colors you see. Like that, the human mind, human personality has three basic traits, which we call as TRS: tamas, rajas and sattva. So these three traits are unique to each individual and form a unique mix, unique color to an individual that forms the personality. So if you want me to say a few words about these three, in a human personality there is energy, basically. That energy, when there is energy, it has to move, it has to flow somewhere through work. So that is rajas, what we call. When the energy is expended, it needs to regenerate itself. So the mind, personality needs some rest in between. So it takes rest and the energy is regenerated. And so the wisdom needed to balance this rest and energy is sattva. So sattva is the wisdom, basically. It's not energy. Energy is rajas. The rest part to regenerate the energy back is tamas, basically. So this is a unique, each personality has unique proportion of these three, and which is the root personality, and it acts. This is the Gita's model, basically. So coming to your question, it has been a long discussion, basically. There are two models to explain the decision making.
Right.
But there is a guiding verse of Gita. We have to come back to the Gita because basically this is for Gita for efficient living, not psychology for efficient living, nor is it spirituality for it is Gita for efficient living. In fact, in the Gita, there is a very important, beautiful verse, verse 35 of chapter 2 or 3. Or 150, verse 154 from the Gita book by Sachri. So that verse says, let me just put the Sanskrit verse just a bit. Sreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat anustitat swadharme nidhanam sreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. If I want to translate this to English, your innate dharma, that is swadharma, bestows benediction upon you. It is good for you. Your innate dharma bestows benediction upon you rather than following others' dharma or the programming by others. The paradharma is what others tell you to do or your imitation of it or others' programming of you. That's paradharma to you. Yours is your innate dharma. Follow that. It is worth dying following your own dharma rather than following others' dharma, which could be fraught with danger. So this is the English translation of this. So there are two issues here: your own dharma and which is programmed dharma. Your programmed attitudes versus your own innate attitude. So coming back to the question on what should you base your decision, on what you learn from others or somebody tells you or your own root personality. So Krishna says be truthful to your own self, follow your own individual truth instead of following others or imitating others.
Okay. So you're saying to follow your innate nature, right? But if I look back, the decisions which I made way back, right, be it my childhood or my early adulthood, right, I would prefer to do those decisions a lot differently, be it the career or the decisions in family. Why is this changes over the period of time, our understanding?
Yes, that's a practical question. So even if you take decisions based on your own deep understanding of your own strengths and weaknesses, because basically approximate or even a good understanding your own strengths and weaknesses is the real wisdom, isn't it? If you know your strengths and your weaknesses, you can play a situation to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. So that's real intelligence. So even if you base your decision on these and take your own decision and stick to it, as Krishna says, over a period of time, the decisions you take when you are younger appear out of bullseye or not too wise for you. That is because in the Freudian model, he just talks about the iceberg which is floating, but he doesn't talk about the medium in which this iceberg is floating. That's the universal consciousness. And in the Gita model, we said this is based on the three gunas, which are subject to change. See, gunas are basically, I said, it's basically because the energy moves. But I can talk to the gunas, Rajas and Tamas. So these change within period of same day or even a few days or a few months. And they say gunas always cycle. Actually says gunas always cycle, isn't it? So you are never in the same mood. Similarly, these can have a very long cycles like 20 years, 25 years, which the gunas change. So your decisions, though based on a relative reality at that point, or if you look from a bird's eye view, on a zoomed out view, after some time it could appear that they are not really correct because they are based on gunas which are changing.
Okay.
And in the Freudian model, it is just looking at the iceberg. But if you can come down to the medium, to the ocean which is supporting the iceberg, or in the Gita model, to that pure consciousness which gives rise to these gunas.
Okay.
If you can tap that part of yourself, which is pure consciousness, and then take your decision from that, then your decision could be timeless.
Okay.
Your decision could be universal in nature. So it could impact the whole universe.
Right.
And that your personal decision could have so much power in itself, basically, and it can change the lives of others.
Right. So a quick question on the universal consciousness and these gunas, right? So what is the link? Are they fundamentally different to each other, or they are superimposed on top of each other? Can you give us?
We said in the gunas, the basic principle is there is energy. Energy which is there or which is expanded, it is not there. That is Rajas and Tamas. Energy can't exist by itself. Though the science says energy creates another energy, energy comes from something which is behind it. That is we call pure consciousness, which you can call Atman, God, whatever, which is absolutely still, from which the energy has arisen. So, which is absolutely still, absolutely peaceful, and which is universal in nature. The only quality of that universal underlying nature, like the example of ocean. If you are in an ocean, if the fish in an ocean, basically, if you ask him, where are you? The fish says, I am in my world. It doesn't even know that it is surrounded by the ocean. So, the only quality of that ocean-like consciousness is its expanse, infinity, and unconditional love.
Okay.
If your decision has these components, if your decision has come from that deep stillness in you, that deep peace in you, and if that decision can carry that unconditional love for the whole universe, then you are basing yourself in that consciousness, God, pure consciousness, Atman. Then your decision has so much power.
Okay, good. So again, bringing to the practicality, right? So how can we use these two aspects that you just mentioned in our family life or maybe in our workplace, right? Because we need to lead a lot of stuff and we make a lot of decisions there.
So basically, this may sound theoretical, little bit esoteric and out of practicality. But if you see usual examples, basically, if you take a decision, let us take the family. Family can have always two. You have to choose between two, whether it's mother and wife, or one of the two children, or your brother and someone. Basically, it involves take a decision between two in the family. In the office also it's the same, whether it's subordinate and your boss or two subordinates, or it's always we have to choose between two in the workplace. So same thing happens in spirituality also. See, Krishna has given different sadhanas. One is karma yoga, next is dhyana yoga. So basically for personalities, there is a unifying thing in all these basically. Even if you base your decision on your true self, which is true for you, then there is honesty in that decision and your family members will align to it. So take your decision on what is true for you in your being.
Okay. So how we...
So if that decision is taken on the basis of what is true for you, it carries that strength. Then others will obviously align around that. Coming to the sadhanas, suppose your decision is not based on the truth of yourself. You are a Rajasic person, whereas you want to meditate, your meditation is not going to be successful. You are a Sattvic person and you want to work, you would rather meditate rather than work in the world. So even the sadhana also depends on what is your true nature basically. This is why you see there is so much media attention on even the spiritual people. They say that guru, I thought he was so and so, he has now fallen, because that guru was really not aligned to his truth. So there is a projected part of him which is then other part of him which is not aligned to. So you see all these discrepancies in the spiritual field also.
Correct. Yes, we do. So how is it practically possible to root oneself in this infinite consciousness which you are referring?
See, yeah. So basically, all this could be theoretical, but when I come to the day-to-day effect, when I'm in the office, when I'm talking to someone, how can I bring this wisdom to my decision making at that point? This is the practical issue which we have to deal with. I am forced to quote one great being here, who is Dr. David Hawkins. So Dr. David Hawkins says, "You are subject only to what you hold in your mind." So this is a mantra you have to repeat yourself when I am needed to take a decision. I tell myself, I am subject only to what I hold in my mind. I am in truth an infinite being. So we remind ourselves that we are in truth an infinite being, and I am subject, or I act only according to what I hold in my mind. If I leave it, I don't need to hold it. Then I am in truth, I am an infinite being. My decision will come from that plane, carrying that power, carrying that love, and it will be perfect.
Okay. So I will practice that from now onwards. And with this, I'd like to thank you for your time. And we will meet in the next video. Namaste.